everyone, it's Maki here. The Gundam series is really heating up, isn't it? There's so much exciting development with the soon-to-be-released Gundam build medals and the gradually approaching release of Gundam Seed Freedom, among others. But there's another highly anticipated piece on the horizon. That is the second installment of the Hathaway movie series. The provisional title Son of Bright has been released, but we are still awaiting further news. This work has already been concluded in the medium of novels, unlike Witch from Mercury, and what will likely be a more uplifting story. In Build Medals, it is a work where the serious development is the charm, contrasting significantly with the others. There must be many out there who are so looking forward to the movie that they're rewatching the first installment over and over again today. Let's delve into analyzing Hathaway Noah's battle on his heart, considering fans' interpretations and thoughts. Terrorists attack the shuttle on which Hathaway and others are traveling. Hathaway, reacting to the voices of Crespar and Jiichi and Delusia, subdues the terrorists. When Hathaway bursts into the cockpit, he freezes at the sight of a terrorist wearing a clown mask. In this scene, Hathaway completely stops moving, becoming unnaturally rigid. What could this mean? In the battle with the terrorists, Hathaway makes extremely swift judgments and actions. Let's closely observe Hathaway's combat. In the fight against the person with the pumpkin mask, he immediately directs the gun barrel downward, snatches the pistol hooked on the waist, and simultaneously shoots the legs. Furthermore, he targets and shoots a terrorist behind him in an instant. Hathaway has to turn around to face his opponent in the scene. The person with the pirate mask has Hathaway squarely in front. Moreover, let's observe this scene more closely. Hathaway shoots the person with the pirate mask in the shoulder. Next, we confirm that Kenneth's leg topples a person wearing a skeleton mask. With a sideways glance, Hathaway verifies this for a moment and immediately starts the next action. He picks up the gun of the fallen terrorist and hands it to a man standing nearby, fully disarming and incapacitating the weapon. The man, given the gun, follows Hathaway with his eyes, bewildered. Ideally, he should keep the fallen terrorist in check by pointing the gun at him. It is depicted that this man is not a soldier like Kenneth but a politician or someone related. Hathaway's perspective as he bursts into the cockpit is depicted. At this point, Hathaway is aware that at least 2 terrorists are holed up inside. Without hesitation, Hathaway shoots at the person wearing a witch's mask. However, even here, he only aims to incapacitate by shooting both shoulders. Had it been Kenneth, a soldier, wouldn't he have shot the head? That would be surefire if you're fighting an opponent alone. It would also conserve precious bullets. Kenneth is someone who orders his mobile suit unit attacking Maki to attack with full force, without considering damage to the city, considering the lives of several government officials on board the shuttle. It is a more certain scene to take the terrorist's life. Yet Hathaway only incapacitates using 2 bullets. He rushes toward another person. His pistol is out of bullets, but Hathaway points it anyway. Doesn't he realize? While this is merely my personal opinion, I think Hathaway knows he's out of bullets. Because in this scene, his finger isn't pulling the trigger. I believe Hathaway has discerned through the battle so far that the terrorists are akin to amateurs. The terrorist, having a bulletless gun pointed at him, is startled, losing his stance. If his opponent at that moment had been a soldier like Kenneth, there wouldn't have been any surprise. just a counter-aim of a gun. Hathaway disrupts his opponent's stance merely by the act of pointing the pistol, then immediately throws away the pistol and immobilizes his opponent. Lowering his stance, he lunges at the terrorist. While lunging, he grabs the opponent's gun and knocks it to the floor. Moreover, this attack too is executed with calmness. He twists the opponent's body, adjusting to slam knock himself but the terrorist to the floor. He restrains the adversary's arms, neutralizing him. The combat ability of Hathaway, fluidly making several decisions and quickly incapacitating his opponent while executing them simultaneously, is meticulously illustrated. And then, a person wearing a clown mask appears from the depths of the cockpit. As I said at the beginning, Hathaway completely phrases from this moment on. If you own the Blu-ray disc, please take a moment to closely observe this scene. While the subtle movements of the terrorists struggling against Hathaway's suppression are depicted, Hathaway himself is illustrated in a completely still state. Of course, there is some slight shifting due to the terrorist's movement, but there is no motion from Hathaway himself. This depiction seems unbelievable as the same person who was moving accurately in the combat up to this point. It's safe to think there is some kind of intent here. Hathaway, having a gun pointed at him by the crowned terrorist, wears a deflated expression. It is an expression entirely different from the serious one shown in the combat just moments before. This would be a scene where at least some resistance, such as using the restrained terrorist as a shield, would be appropriate. It's a little better than non-resistance. It is an effective measure if the opponent is practically an amateur. A common opinion often raised among fans is that Hathaway sees quest power in the crowned terrorist. This is an opinion generated among fans and is not the official view. What do you think? I certainly think that interpretation is an interesting point of view. The hair-like decoration on the head resembles the hair color of quest power very much. Upon a careful comparison, it leaves an impression that you could say it's the same color without an issue. I got the impression that this color usage was intentional. Hathaway's initiation to challenge the terrorists was triggered by hallucinations of quest power. At this time, Hathaway might have been seeing a different person than what we, the audience, are seeing. The matter of Hathaway experiencing mental abnormalities is also touched upon in the staff's comments. An episode is shared about when Ms. Mitsudo Minako, who was in charge of the text design, was asked to design Hathaway's signature. Hathaway's signature was carefully designed to express his broken state. It is said Hathaway's signature has become a characteristically peculiar shape. Especially the shape of the letter A is not consistent. Uppercase and lowercase letters are also jumbled together. Hathaway, acting as Maki, should avoid actions that stand out as much as possible. There is little advantage to using such an artistic signature. It's acceptable to interpret that Hathaway undergoing some mental abnormalities is an official view. Hathaway, recognizing the terrorist wearing the crown mask as Quest Power stopped moving. I felt this was a sufficient interpretation to explain Hathaway's unnatural rigidity in the scene. In the latter half of this film, Hathaway boarding the Gundam encounters a hallucination of Hathaway. The Grim Reaper doesn't come when you're on guard. Hathaway, who had ceased to brace himself in front of the terrorist, was indeed ensnared by a sudden fate of death. However, there is someone who broke that destiny. It's Kenneth's leg. It was Kenneth's leg's bullet that rescued Hathaway from a destiny of death. For those familiar with the development towards the end of the story as depicted in the novel version, it's an intriguing progression. Lastly, there's just one more scene I'd like to highlight. Hathaway, having conversed with Kenneth, looks back toward the cockpit once again. Why did he cast his eyes towards the cockpit? Was it to cautiously monitor the terrorist Kenneth had neutralized? This scene is depicted for nearly 3 seconds, within a film where time is precious. Persistently showing a stationary shot for 3 seconds gives a seemingly very long impression. Might Hathaway have been unconsciously searching for the figure of his first love? What reflected in his eyes was only the trace of splattered fresh blood. Is this all thinking on my part? Please do share your thoughts if you're willing. Now, let's think a bit more about Hathaway neutralizing the terrorist without taking his life. If Hathaway is experiencing some kind of mental abnormality, it's possible to think that he was in a state where he could not take a human life. In the original Gundam, there were scenes where Emma always showed significant hesitation to attack living humans. Conversely, there also exists a scene where he speaks if the opponent is a Zoku. It's not human when fighting against a Zoku. Amuro inside the Gundam is aware that there are humans inside the Zokas. However, it's interpretation that he tries to overcome fear and guilt by thinking of them as non-human if they visually appear as mobile suits. Similarly, perhaps Hathaway was in a mental state where while he did not hesitate to battle with mobile suits, he was unable to take the life of a fresh and brought human, of course. This too includes my personal interpretation. I'm also very much looking forward to the movie Hathaway until new information is released. Thoroughly analyzing past works is also a delightful experience. Let's meet again in the next episode of the program.